All right, we are here in Iqaluit in the north of Canada in the province of Nunavut. I believe Iqaluit is the smallest provincial capital in all of Canada and is probably one of the coldest locations on our flight. All right, we are here in Iqaluit in the north of Canada. And yeah, so this is a flight titled So Cold and So Dark because in Iqaluit this time of year, the days don't last very long. The sun sets around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So chances are whenever I'm available to actually do this flight, it's going to be dark and it's going to be cold. There is light snow in the forecast here at Iqaluit, and over in Greenland, where we are heading, there is freezing rain at the airport. So we'll be doing a lot of anti-ice work today. Definitely doing a toga takeoff since there should be snow on the ground. I'm not sure if we'll see that on the runway here, but the conditions, according to our operational flight plan, definitely dictate a more conservative takeoff procedure. So let's hop into our cold and dark, really cold and dark. Look at that icing. Cockpit here, and we are going to assume no ground power is available, so go straight to an APU start. So get those batteries on and feel around for that light switch. There we go. And let's get that APU going. 1, 2, 3. And we'll wait for that to start up, and we'll go ahead and just do whatever checks we can. We'll wait for the APU to start. There's not really much we can do in terms of activating systems on the overhead right now. So we already have our sim brief plan up here on our iPad. We have our coffee because it's a late at night flight. And check our pedestal real quick. So our speed brakes are disarmed and retracted. Flaps are retracted. Parking brake is enabled. Gravity gear is in place. Rudder trim is neutral. Engine set to normal. The masters are off. Weather systems are off. And pretty much everything else is off right now because we're still running on battery power. Ah, there we go. There's the APU kicking in. So let's go ahead and start with our overhead checks. So let's get the chrono. We'll let the APU run for a minute before we activate the bleed air for the pack, so we can start getting folks on board. Let's go through the flows. We'll keep the fuel pumps off for now because we're going to be adding some fuel. But for now, we'll turn on the nav and local lights. We'll get the strobes to auto. We'll turn on the lights on the overhead. And we'll get the no smoking on. We'll get emergency lights to arm. We'll keep seatbelt signs off for now since we're going to be refueling for the moment. Crew supply on, ground control on, and we'll start getting our aiders aligned. And I'll go through our fire test now. So APU fire test. Engine 1 fire test. And engine 2 fire test. Alright, all good. And then finally our cargo smoke fire test. And no white lights except for our fuel pumps, which is fine for now. And yeah, let's just make sure I got all of those. Yeah, looks like everything is set. The radio panels look fine. So we'll come down here. Let's set our QNH. VATSIM, there are no controllers online for where we are on Iqaluit. We may pass into controlled airspace temporarily, but for now we'll just get our own ATIS. We're at 991 millibars for Iqaluit. So we'll just go ahead and adjust our QH to 991. Excellent. Alright, so we checked our pedestal already, just to make sure that my controls, my peripherals are working, and looks like they are. Perfect. Perfect. Everything looks good there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our fuel loaded up. So looking at our operational flight plan here, we are carrying a block fuel of 4559 tons, and that is because we don't have an alternate today. Since there's no really good viable alternate within a reasonable distance from the airports we're traveling to, no airports that have the requisite runway length, the best alternates are either our departure or destination airports. So no extra fuel for alternate in the flight plan, but we'll probably add an extra half ton just in case if we are about halfway through and we encounter an issue and it's really an inconsequential decision either to come back to Iqaluit or to continue to Greenland. It'll be nice just to have a few extra minutes of fuel to account for any decision-making time we may have to use. So let's see, 4789, let's add half a ton, so that would be 5289. To be exact. We don't have to be that exact, honestly, but it's a nice clean addition. Alright, so that won't take too long to fuel up, and now let's get our passengers on board. Oh, first, actually, before we let them on, let's get the bleed air on so they don't freeze to death in the back. Alright, let's come into life there. Init press. Let's get a data request from SimBrief. Iqaluit to a Bravo Golf Sierra Foxtrot. That looks good. Estimated time about an hour 22 in the air. So this is going to be a pretty quick flight. And okay, let's go back to the AOC menu. Weights and balance, and get our request. So we have 143 passengers tonight, and let's get them boarding. So Fly-by-Wire just recently updated their development build, and one change I've noticed is that the loading of passengers is far more realistic in terms of the time it will take, and you actually see your payload weight increase in real time as passengers come on board. Oh, and this is also new. I didn't notice this before, but it looks like the cargo actually ticks up as well. I guess that's to account for baggage, because we're not actually carrying any cargo weight per our flight plan, if that's correct. And I forget where they actually show cargo weight if you do have it. Actually, I think it's a setting in SimBrief itself. I'm not sure if it's reflected in the OFP, but we definitely had cargo set to 0. But the payload value, I believe, does include the weight of people's actual baggage. That's being accounted for there. And let's go ahead and continue our checks. So barometer set, altimeters. So we're actually going to be climbing to an initial altitude. We're clearing ourselves to 5,000 feet, which is referenced on the SID, which we'll review in a little bit. Flight directors are both on. Landing systems are off. We are on ARC 10. Let's get our constraints on both sides. And our brightness looks pretty good, so I'm not going to adjust any of those. And ECAM check. Still some time to align those aiders. So I think while we wait, since again ATC is not online, and let me double check that they're still not online. Nope, just Unicom immediate area. I think we can go ahead before we set up the box. I prefer to set up the box once the aiders are aligned. It just makes it a bit easier. You can do it all in one shot. Let's go ahead and brief our departure. Alright, so we are departing from Iqaluit runway 34. We are parked somewhere over here, and we're going to clear ourselves kind of across the aprons to taxiway D to maximize the full length of the runway on this toga takeoff tonight. Let's see if there's anything to be aware of here. Okay, so takeoff departure procedure. So climb heading 343, which is runway heading, to 1,000 feet before proceeding on course. Procedure not authorized when blasting area 0.5 nautical miles north of runways active. Well, that doesn't matter in the sim. Authorized air carriers. I've never seen these abbreviations before. We'll have to look those up, maybe en route. But runway visibility of 12 or a quarter. I'm assuming that's 1,200 meters, or 12. That's a good question too. I haven't seen a chart quite like this. If anyone is familiar with what 12 or a quarter means in this context, please leave your comments on the video, and hopefully we'll both learn something new. But the important elements are runway heading to at least 1,000 feet before we go to our main course, and our first intercept will be the YFB VOR. But we're going to clear ourselves to 5,000 off the bat, because again, ATC is offline, and that is kind of indicated on the SID chart here. So here is the runway 5, sorry, the Iqaluit 5 departure SID. And here you indicate again we're flying 343 degree heading, minimum of 1,000 feet before any deviations. We would normally be vectored by ATC, as I imagine. Safe altitude within 100 nautical miles is 6,000. Transition is 18,000. And the procedure down here. Continue climb heading 343 for vectors to assigned route. Elevated terrain to the right of center line, 2,500 from departure end. And for altitude, maintain 5,000 or assigned altitude. So that is our target coming out. So I imagine we will fly out at 1,000. I think we'll probably left turn around and come to YFB that way before continuing on to, I think, Kenki is the next waypoint. That's right. And that's mostly just to kind of give us the best view of the Iqaluit city, because I think it should be quite pretty. So you know what, actually for view's sake, looks like the minimum safe altitude around here, 3,500 feet. Let's go ahead and adjust our initial climb out to 4,000. Hopefully you get a better view. It is nighttime, so I'm not sure how much we'll actually see. But yeah, that'll be nice to see, if there is something to see. All right. So after that, let's actually, while we're waiting for the aiders to align, let's brief our emergencies. Give me 1 second here to get my notes. All right. So what we're going to do, if we have any issues taxiing to the runway, we would stop completely, assess any ECAM messages, notify ATC that we're having issues, and then make a call either to return to the gate or to continue. On takeoff, if we're experiencing a failure before 100 knots or V1, we will call out the malfunction and I will call stop or go. If I call stop, I'll apply the rejected takeoff procedure and bring the airplane to a complete stop. I'll set the parking brake and call attention crew at station. I'll monitor rev green and decel and silence any oral warnings and inform ATC of our issue. And then I will, on behalf of the co-pilot that doesn't exist, carry out any ECAM actions. If evacuation is required, we will carry out the emergency evacuation checklist. If there is a failure after V1, Takeoff will be continued and no action before 400 feet AGL except silencing of any oral warnings and gear up. Once reaching 400 AGL, ECAM actions will take for engine failure, damage, or fire. When the engine is secured, we'll stop ECAM, will level off, accelerate, and clean up. But if the engine is not secured, we'll continue climbing until engine is secured, but not above engine out maximum acceleration altitude. At the green dot, open climb, we'll select MCT on our throttle and resume ECAM. Complete takeoff after takeoff checklist and check the status. And then we'll either fly the engine out routing. In this case, we're just going to be following the missed approach procedure for Iqaluit, which in this case, pulling up this chart here, missed approach, we would climb to 2500, runway heading, and then left turn direct to YFB VOR, where I'd assume we would normally get instructions on a hold point. Looks like the hold point is right here, actually above YFB. So we would hold, evaluate, and then decide either to continue or turn back. All right. So that is that. Let's see how we're doing on the ADERS alignment. And oh look, we were able to pass all that time. So let's go ahead and set up our box. And passengers are still coming on. This is way more realistic and far slower than it used to be. Looks like all the bags are on board at least. Alright, so data, ARS, all nav, fantastic. LEAP engines, that's all correct. We have the latest ARX cycle, looks good. And I think that's all I really care about here for now, at least for the Sims purpose. So go to the init page. Go ahead and get our init data. Not in database. I'm curious where that fails there. We'll take a look on the flight plan in a second. But yes, we are going from Iqaluit to Bravo Golf Sierra Foxtrot. No alternate today. We are Air Canada 9084. Cost index of 8. Flight level 390. That all looks correct. And the triple pause on our operating flight plan today is 31558. So just go ahead and update that. And that all looks good. Going to the flight plan. Here we go. We're going to from CYFB to YFB. Actually, let's go ahead and put in our departure information. That will change things a bit. Via the Iqaluit 5 departure. Insert. And there we go. So there's a bit of manual work to be done here. The initial climb out of 1,000 feet, but we are going to 4,000. And then we will manually track around to YFB. And we'll see how the takeoff is. I might actually stay off autopilot for a little bit and kind of enjoy some hand flying before activating and continuing to YFB. Okay, so looking at the rest of the flight plan, Kenki, Iknog, SF, that all looks good based on my memory. And we'll program in the approach once we're in the air, so we'll have some time there. For rad navs, we'll just put in the VOR here locally. And I think that's all for the rad nav. So let's go back and finish the init 2 page here. So we are still loading folks on. So we'll go ahead and let's see what the computes. Yeah, no, it's not. That's not right. So our zero fuel weight. Well, actually, let's check the MiG-2 because I want to get the center of gravity reading as well. Oh, we just completed. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. That does not match. The payload matches, but the zero fuel weight does not match. I wonder if our dry operating weight has changed in the mod. Oh, no, but here, zero fuel weight is 61. But you know, I think this is being pulled from sim brief. Here we go. Max zero fuel weight, but what is the actual zero fuel weight? Oh, it should be your dry weight plus your payload. Right? Yeah. Yeah, so maybe they changed that in the sim. I'll have to figure out where to check that later. But I'm going to have to trust what's here. So the gross weight is 62,600. So if that tracks, let's see, 57. And we added what, like 5.2 of fuel? Yeah. Okay. So on the INA2 page, that zero fuel weight calculation is correct. And let's see the center of gravity we got, 24.9. So let's compare that. Yeah. Well, 58.4. So 63. Oh, that's still wrong. That is still wrong. It's not off by much. But it doesn't tie. Oh. It doesn't tie with what's in here. So I'm going to trust this. So 57.3. And then just replace the weight, 57.3. Alright, so let's do the fuel planning. 3.7, our actual block is 5.3. So update that. And our headwind today, oh, we actually have a tailwind of 5 knots, so not really doing much for us there. Okay, so our route reserve today is 0.6, 0 alternate, and final reserve is 1. And of course we have that extra time from the, looks like we're, according to the computer, we're over fueled by a full ton. Give us an extra half hour of time. So that makes me comfortable enough to make any adjustments if we run into issues in the air. Great, so on performance, I went ahead and did the performance calculation ahead of time. And the long and short of it is we're going to be doing a flaps 3 takeoff. THS, actually, I think it was 24.9 was the center of gravity. I believe you tie it to this guy. Oh, let's get some panel lights on. So 24.9, I'll just adjust this now. Let's call it like 0.3 up. So flaps 3 and up 0.3. And transition altitude 18,000 feet. We'll keep these engine out and thrust reduction acceleration speeds standard. And let's go ahead and flex. We're doing toga takeoff, so that's not relevant. So V1 is 122. VR is 123, and V2 is 127. Relatively low speeds. All right, and that is the box done. And we've done our briefing. Let's double check that ATC is still not online for us. Oh, we're still on Unicom. Alright, so we'll go ahead and clear ourselves for pushback. At this point, I'm going to turn the pumps on. And get seatbelt signs on. And make sure everything else looks good. Alright, so we'll go ahead and do our pushback. Alright, and we'll want to clean up, well, we'll see after pushback. So let's go ahead and release the parking brake. And we'll get our beacon on. So we'll try to follow the ground markings. It's a little dark. There's nothing behind us, so I think that's fine. And you know what, we'll go ahead and start engines on stand. So set to ignition and start engine 2. Well, not on stand, we're starting on pushback. I'm assuming there's going to be some kind of marking to line up with. I see it over to my right. Ah, there we go. Better not be like a pole behind us or something. That'll be really annoying. Well, it does kind of look like snow on the ground, so I'm glad we are configuring for that toga takeoff. It's so hard to do pushback in the dark. I think those wheels are kind of centered over, so yeah, let's go ahead and finish this off. It's okay if we're a little off. That is definitely good enough. Right, parking brake is on. And engine 1, start. Oh, and let's start our engine clock. We'll be about a minute behind. It's fine though. And we'll go ahead and we'll squawk 2000. Set that to auto at this point. Alright, successful start of engine 2. Fantastic. So engine mode selected back to normal. APU bleed is off. We'll go ahead and get our anti-ice on. Our window should be set to auto. It looks like it's clearing up, so that's fine. And APU master is off. Ground spoilers are now armed. Rudder trim is set to 0. Flaps, we're going to set to flaps 3. Flaps 3 or... yeah, flaps 3. Pitch trim is set. ECAM status. Oh, that's not the ECAM. Alright, degas standby, engine ice, wing ice, APU available, but that's shutting down. Alright. After start, checklist complete. And let's assume we have our taxi clearance. We'll go ahead and get our taxi lights on and our nighttime runway turn lights on. All right. And let's see. But before we roll, let's run the taxi scans now. So we'll do a flight controls check. Alright. Full left, full right, neutral, full down, full back, and neutral, full right, full left, neutral, and pitch trim is 0.4 up. Interesting. Oh, that's the pitch trim. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I think we put in 0.3, but that's close enough. Actually, there we go. Now it's 0.3. Okay, auto brake onto max. Weather radar. It's in-op still in the sim, but let's go ahead and turn those on. Transponder will go ahead and set that. Do we set this to on now? Yeah, I think we do for taxi. I'll go ahead and activate that now. And okay, let's start taxiing, and then we'll ping the cabin. And there you can see the snow flurries. And we'll get a nice view of Iqaluit on the way out. Let's take another look at those departure charts here, and just make sure. Pretty easy taxi all the way to Delta. So all the way down this taxiway to the end. We are a bit lighter tonight because we are flying down this taxiway. Let's keep that around 20 knots. Gonna have to maintain constant pressure on these brakes. Oh, hello, food truck. Should have done a single engine taxi. 2 is totally overkill. See the end of the runway there, those red lights. We'll follow this one left. We want to keep going all the way down so we can make sure to get the most runway possible. Slow down a bit for this turn. All right, do just ping the cabin.
Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
And we'll do our takeoff config test. And all looks good, no blues. So we'll go ahead and do one final check to make sure ATC, yep, ATC is still off, but we'll make our radio call to a Unicom. Let's make sure we are taking off runway 34, right? Yes, we are. Iqaluit traffic, Air Canada 9084, holding short of runway 34 at Iqaluit, ready for takeoff. Alright, let's line up. And now I'm just going to do my final heading check before we actually take off. Well, we'll do a takeoff checklist on the runway. That'll just be easier. Yeah, we are getting maximum runway tonight. Go ahead and stop there for a second. And before takeoff checklist. So brake fans are off. Approach path is clear. Our strobes are now on. We'll go ahead and turn on our landing lights and nose lights to take off. Engine mode selected is fine. And anti-ice is required. Packs 1 and 2. We're going to do packs off for this takeoff. And here we go. Let's get our heading bug programmed in. 339, but we want 343. Okay, here we go. And 1250, stable and full toga. Toga SRS runway. Knots. V1, rotate. Positive rate, gear up. Thrust climb. And we'll go ahead and engage that autopilot. I did a pretty poor job holding the runway heading there. Let's go ahead and start our turn.
$2,500.
And we'll start cleaning up. Ground spoilers disarmed. In cloud, look at that. Speed alt star. Let's see. Check our VOR. Get our heading bug pointed somewhat towards YFB. Yep, there we go. Perfect. Sure, it lines up with our VOR vector. And then once we're stable, we'll go ahead and enter nav mode. And there is Iqaluit beneath us. Let's go ahead and turn these cabin lights off. Oh yeah. That is pretty gorgeous, even though well, it's a little fuzzy from here. I guess that's to be expected. Okay, well, let's go ahead and enter nav mode. First, let's go direct to YFB. Direct. And there we go. And once we do our flyover of Iqaluit, that's pretty cool, huh? That's a crazy town. I'd love to visit this one day. Alright, well, let's go ahead and clear ourselves up to our cruise of 39,000. We basically cleared ourselves. Alright, we've kind of delayed. Yeah, let's get our exterior lights off. Since we're going to our cruise, we'll go ahead and go standard. Oh no. There we go. And let's check the OFP just to see when we can expect to break through those clouds. We know the anti-ice. It's safe to kind of turn that off. Above the departure, looks like overcast for 6,000. Yeah, so we should be above much of the cloud now. So I'll go ahead, I'll turn the anti-ice off at this point. Oh, and the packs, those poor people in the back. Give it a minute before we turn on the other one. Those. Alright, past 10,000 feet, we'll turn the landing lights off. Check the pedestal, everything looks nice. And we're on our way to Kenki. That time will update as we continue to accelerate towards our cruise altitude, but that is when we'll likely get some ATC coverage in roughly half an hour, if not less. Actually, it looks like Edmonton went offline, so we will not have any ATC on our way today unless someone decides to sign on. Well, since there's not a ton to see outside for now, with the other pack on. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna explore what other floodlight options we have here. Oh, I never closed the cabin door. I wonder if I'd get fired for that. Because even this on dim, it feels like too much. I'm not entirely sure what this does. Oh, it's just the pedestal light. Don't really need that. Let's see, I wonder if there's some other overhead light. It's more personal, like a personal reading light. Like this looks like... Who knows what that is? I think I'm thinking of the 787 that has those additional light options. Let's see this top panel. Oh, there's a reading light. This might be what I want. Yeah, okay. And then we'll go ahead and we'll turn this one off. And that illuminates literally nothing. That does nothing for me. Okay. It's literally just a light in the ceiling. Alright, well, for entertainment purposes, we'll just keep this on. Because, again, it's nicer to see the lit cockpit if there's literally nothing to see outside. But let's take a look outside real quick and see. Got anything? Well, I mean, the stars, of course, gorgeous. But, no moon tonight. So we're literally getting no light. This will make the approach interesting because apparently there's a lot of terrain where we're going in Greenland. Let's go ahead and clean up our RadNav page real quick. Out. Good progress. And we're not going to do our arrival briefing just yet, but let's at least figure out where our top of descent is today, because we still have to calculate that manually. So cleaning up these charts that we don't need anymore. Unless there's an emergency, I guess it would be good to keep them there, but let's just assume we'll be fine for now. So on our descent, we need to be down to, say, 3,100 feet by FFO9. So let's go ahead and put FFO9 in there. Searching for all the FFO9 hits. There we go. This is definitely the one we're looking for. Let's look at, do they have the coordinates? Airport coordinates on this chart? That would be almost too perfect if they did. I mean, it looks right, but I'm curious if there's a way to check. Oh yeah, here we go. So 67 north, roughly 51 west, that tracks. So this is definitely the right one. And so 430 miles to when we want to be at 3,100 feet. Now let's use our handy dandy calculator here for top of descent. So we want 39,000, target altitude of 3,100, at an angle of 3 degrees, and we'll need 113 nautical miles based on current speed. But actually, let's see, what's our cruise speed today? I'm blanking now on when to reference our cruise speeds. Looking for a Mach number. I think it'd be up here. Alright, let's scan carefully. Oh, indicate airspeed and Mach number. Got it. So our Mach number, I see, is going to be top of descent 765. Okay, that's useful to know. Can I put in? I can put in. Actually, we'll just sink it. So we'll wait until we're at top speed, but you know, we can plan approximately. This is not going to be too far off. We could say about like 125 miles, as long as it's safe. We can get down to our target altitude for the approach. Let's just make sure that should work. Yeah, so I think at 3,100 feet, we look relatively safe in the immediate vicinity of the airport. There is just a lot of terrain. That's pretty high once we get low, like you wouldn't want to descend below 3,100 before we get onto the approach path. But good, okay. So just for reference, yeah, we have about, 280 miles until we have to start descent. And just go to our flight plan. Expected to arrive at 4:39 UTC, so yeah, just about an hour. That'll probably come down as we continue to climb and speed up. So in about 20 minutes, we'll do our descent preparations. In the meantime, just do a quick check for any expected turbulence. So actually, it looks like max shear rate is 3 at top of descent. So this is going to be really smooth. So for that, we can go ahead and turn the seatbelt sign off early, I think. Now that is really interesting. So that's relatively to the north. Can we actually see the Aurora Borealis in the sim? Because that wouldn't be sunlight. That is so fascinating. Man, I wish we could actually fly further north. I have to do a 787 oceanic flight. Let's see, because that looks really stunning. Almost looks like it's getting brighter even. This is actually a reason to turn these cabin lights off. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, that is something. Yeah, it looks pretty much due north because we're flying roughly 90 degrees as it is. I guess was that 90 magnetic? So let's learn a bit about where we're going. So we're going to Bravo Golf Sierra Foxtrot. I am not going to be able to pronounce this name, but Kangerlussuaq Airport? Kangerlussuaq? Can I get a phonetic pronunciation of that? Jeez. Oh, it's translates into English as Big Fjord, which if you actually look at the, I'm not sure if you can see it on the charts, but it's in a giant fjord. It's like actually at the end of this giant fjord. It's very easy to spot it on a map of Greenland because it's like one of the larger, more dynamic fjords. But let's see. It is one of only 2 civilian airports in all of Greenland large enough to handle large airliners. I actually think it is the largest in terms of runway length. That's located away from the coast, less prone to fog and wind compared to other airports in Greenland. Wind is a huge factor, and I actually think we're expecting 10-degree headwind, 10-knot headwind on approach. So that's going to make that relatively easy compared to landing elsewhere in Greenland. So it's the international hub for Air Greenland. I couldn't get an Air Greenland livery, so that's why we're flying Air Canada, and I think when we do our next leg, which is to Reykjavik, we'll be taking an Iceland Air livery there. It's actually our last flight in the Air Canada livery, which is sad because it's such a nice one. I think we'll be flying through Canada again once we cross the Pacific. So yeah, we'll be in the Air Canada livery again, but it's going to be a while. I think that's like 30 flights from now, based on the plan. And yes, I have planned out every leg ahead of time. But we can actually change that on the way, which would actually be really fun to do. You know, if folks start following this channel and getting into these streams, I'd be happy to take suggestions on where you guys would like to go. There's so many amazing places to see, especially in Europe. Beautiful airports that Flight Simulator has built. So yeah, happy to deviate if there are interesting things to see. Anyway, back to Kangerlussuaq. The first airport was built here during U.S. occupation in 1941. under the name of Bluey West 8 and later named Sondrestomfjord Air Base. In the mid-50s, transatlantic civilian flights began using the air base for refueling, because at that point you couldn't actually do transatlantic one shot. In 1956, Scandinavian Airlines was flying the Polar Route service with 3 round-trip flights per week, operated in a DC-6 Bravo. Going from Copenhagen to this airport to then Winnipeg and then Los Angeles. That's a hell of a leg. So this use enabled air travel to Greenland but fell off in the 1960s as airliners gained greater range. Instead, the base became the hub of Greenland air traffic. The airport was handed over to civilian Greenlandic control in 1992. So, actually, about 10 years ago, plans were put into place to move the main intercontinental air hub away from Kangerlussuaq. Looks like they're planning to build 3 1,200-meter airstrips at a new airport at Iqaluit, as well as extensions at Nuuk and Luciat. I wonder if that's actually in place yet. But they are planning to build some more airports. Interesting. That implies that there's demand to go to these places. Oh, and welcome to our cruising altitude, everyone. And that should be ahead of Kinky. Yes, it is. Good. Everything's going to plan, at least so far. Except, oh, let's see. We're supposed to be about 40 miles from Kinky. Alright, so we're a little late to stop the climb. That's fine. Alright. So a number of airstrips have been built by the U.S. military at locations deliberately away from major settlements, partly due to the Danish policy to downplay the presence of the U.S. military in Greenland. That's hilarious. So yes, Americans are there. The Danish aren't crazy about it, so they try to hide where we are. And yes, Greenland is owned by Denmark. Home of the best restaurant in the world, actually. Not Greenland, Denmark. Oh, this is a fascinating fact. So, the airport where we're landing, this is definitely a climate change impact. The permafrost underneath the runway is melting, which is actually making it very expensive to maintain and repair. So that's also, I think, driving the need for additional options for intercontinental travel. Here's another interesting fact here. So, despite these new airports and these new airstrips that are actually being extended, Kangerlussuaq is still going to be important because of the more stable weather and the longer runway. So, cruise ships actually would like to exchange passengers at Greenland because the long journey to Greenland and back is unsuitable for many passengers. It's just too long of a trip. So they need a reliable airport with few delays. Because cruise ships have firm planned schedules with booked ports and land activities. So they're actually building a better port near Kangerlussuaq with a new 50-kilometer road to the airport so that cruise ship passengers can then go to Kangerlussuaq and take flights back home instead of staying on a boat for double the time. Right now, the small port can't take cruise ships, so transfer boats are required to ferry passengers back and forth. And there is a nightclub at the airport, so we'll be arriving at like 4:40 UTC. I wonder if they'll still be bumping around. Alright, about 4 miles out of Kenki, that is our entryway to Edmonton airspace. Let's just see if there are still no controllers on. Yep, still no controllers online, so we will be continuing to clear ourselves all the way to Bravo Golf Sierra Foxtrot. Okay. How's our Aurora doing? Look at that! Oh my goodness! I am blown away by the sim all the time. That is wild. I kind of just want to turn straight north, but we'd run out of fuel and we'd have nowhere to land. Oh man. But maybe I should check again to see if there are any suitable airstrips up north. Or maybe actually on the Russian leg of our trip. Right now I have us crossing into the southern part of Alaska, but I wonder if there's enough airports to get us into the north. And I wonder if that's close enough to the pole to get some Aurora action. We'll see. Or again, I might just do a special flight, because that looks like it could be a lot of fun to fly through that. Alright, so I'm actually just going to keep the camera out that window, because it's just so lovely, and continue reading about Greenland. So let's learn a bit about the city. Kangerlussuaq. Now, actually, the first paragraph of this article is all about the airport, which we already read about. But it's interesting. So, the town's population of 500 people is entirely reliant on the airport and the tourist industry. Let's see. Yeah, so Inuit hunters have visited the location, but there's no evidence of ever having been a settlement there. Interesting. Seeing nothing on the eCam. That looks strange to me, though. Alright, well actually, let's go ahead and take this opportunity to plan our approach into the box here. So actually, interesting. So we have this discontinuity and BGSF twice. So let's go ahead and clear out BGSF, clear out the discontinuity, and we'll go ahead and program in our arrival. So we'll be doing, it's the localizer, I'm pretty sure localizer 9Y. is the one we want because we are a category C. Yeah, so category C is local Y. So we're doing the local Y approach. No star, no transitions. Insert. And I guess that decel point will, yeah, recalculate it there. Where does it have it now? Oh, there is no decel point. Interesting. Not sure what the logic is there, but we'll activate the approach ourselves. At CL09, we can be at 3100, so we can actually target that instead of FF09. So let's see if that actually works. CL09. Yep, definitely this one. What is happening? Overspeed? Why is our altimeter all over the place? So strange. I wonder if that's a bug. Let's pay attention to that. But anyway. Okay, so we are about 140 miles away from our descent point. But the box is programmed. We have our approach. So what's interesting about this approach is it's steeper than a normal 3-degree approach. So with that in mind, I'm going to want to be configuring for landing pretty early because I don't want to be in a situation where I have to deploy heavy speed brakes just to try to get my speeds down as we're kind of going through this final descent. So before we get to this initial approach fix, definitely want to be at least flaps 1, and we'll probably manage our speed down. We'll see if we have to manage our speed down manually because there are no speed restrictions on the chart. But I think we should just be kind of conservative with the approach because when it's night, it's steep, there's terrain. It's not an ILS approach, it's a localizer approach, so there's going to be some hand flying involved because VNAV is not really ready in this mod yet. So better to be safe. There's going to be a heavy workload on me if I'm going to be hand flying a lot of this descent. So yeah, we'll actually maybe we'll try to be flaps 2, if not like fully configured by the time we get to the initial approach fix. We'll make for a very slow approach, but that might just be the safer option. Okay, so straight in landing, Class C, the lights will be on, but the our visibility here is 1200 meters. I don't think we'll have a problem with visibility tonight. On this approach, we want to climb on a localizer course until the marker, and then immediately turn right on track 107, climb to 4,000 feet. Okay, that's good to know. We'll refer to this again on the approach. Just taking a look at the airport. So runway nice and long. We'll likely miss Delta, or most likely take Charlie. Let's see if there's any parking restrictions here. Oh, it is an upslope, so maybe we will decelerate faster than we think. So, actually, let's see, do they have actual parking? Can't really tell like which is the main terminal. I'm gonna guess it is by the tower. I mean, the largest buildings here, largest area. So I guess Apron West is where we want to be. So we'll get off Charlie, and then make a right turn and park somewhere here. Easy. Alright, speed stable, altitude looks correct. I'm very curious what was going on there. If it was a bug or maybe just being this far north, there are things to be concerned about with how the instruments respond. I'd be amazed if they actually programmed that level of detail in. Double check here, make sure this all makes sense. So we are 43 nautical miles away from Iqaluit, and then it'll be 200 nautical miles from SF. So yeah, there really is plenty of time before we have to get down. Oh, let's while we're doing the descent prep, let's program our RadNav page. We have the SF ADF there. Frequency 382. That's right. Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. SF. No. That is... Let's take a look. We should always check this. We should never assume this is correct. Oh yeah, that's messed up. Wait, hold on. Why are we going all the way out? I'm going to clear this SF fix and clear out the discontinuity. Iqaluit to CL09. Yeah, wow, that would have been really strange. So we should double check. Okay. That's still correct. Whew. Yeah, but now our decel point is calculated because now it makes more sense. And yeah, I like that. That actually makes sense. So we want to be in our approach phase before we get to CL09 and before we start descending at FF09. So we'll definitely, may even activate the approach phase before then, but we'll definitely want to be configuring early once again. Wow! Oh, you've got to be kidding me! Blood Moon Rising, look at that! Wow! Alright, when that gets higher in the sky, we're definitely going to take some screenshots of that. That is unbelievable. I believe it looks like that because of how the sunlight is hitting the Earth's atmosphere at such an extreme angle, and it kind of red shifts how the light refracts. So that might actually be sunlight that we're seeing on the other side of the Earth, just kind of like at a really sharp angle, kind of bending around the atmosphere. Unbelievable. We'll watch this beautiful moonrise. Go back to our history lesson as we approach our descent point. Alright, so the climate is subarctic, bordering on tundra climate. And a semi-arid climate, which apparently is unusual for somewhere this far north. They receive very little rainfall. So here in November, the average high in Fahrenheit is 18 degrees, and the average low is 2 degrees. It never gets above 50. July is the hottest month, and it kind of just hits 50 as the high. The average, it actually gets into the low 60s, but the daily average is 50 degrees. It stays pretty humid. Doesn't get that dry. Okay. I might get some screenshots now, because as it rises, I'm expecting the red will clear out a bit. See if we can get it with the flash. Yeah, I don't think we got it. Let's try it again. Cool. If we got it, we got it. If not, it was nice. Alright, as we're getting closer to our descent, just make sure again that there are no controllers on. Normally they would contact you if they did sign on, but let's see. I think, yeah, we've just passed into our final ATC region. I think we could see that on the, yeah, so we just passed into the Nook area. So we'll clear ourselves for descent in roughly 50 nautical miles. There we are. Okay. Oh, it's destination data. Yes. How can I forget this all-important piece? So let's take a look. So 992, 1 degree, 185. 992, 1 degree. And 180 at 5 knots. Transition altitude, good question. I think it's 18,000. Oh no, it's 7,000. Nice and low. And let's see, we got our baro minimums. 450. Okay. Looking good. Thanks for the reminder, McDo. Yeah, it's already looking a little bit less red than it did. I am loving that light halo. Oof, unreal. Oh, so I forgot the trick I could do. So, actually, so CL09, we can actually go into, is it here? No. We're at the, I think we're going to the top one. We can get to the fixes. We'll do CL09. And we could do a radius of 120 nautical miles. And now we should be able, yep, we can see the radial there. So as we approach that blue line, that will be our kind of hacky top of descent marker. Nice little trick. Oh, this is an op. Does the button actually? No, the button does nothing. Okay. Alright, getting closer to that descent line, so we'll start programming the autopilot for 3,100 feet, and we'll do the vertical speed of 3 degrees pitch down. Descent preparation checklist is complete. let's go ahead and start that descent. Okay, FPA -3 degrees. Power is coming back. Alright, we'll go ahead and double check our expected weather in the OFP. Get a sense for the cloud coverage and the need for anti-ice. I passed it, didn't I? So, oh yeah, freezing rain, broken clouds of 4,200 and 5,000. So we'll definitely want to get our anti-ice on before we get down there. Oh, the brake set's low. Let's see, we're 14 minutes from CL09, and we're going at 24, so, yeah, we'll get down there plenty of time. Okay, looks like our fuel is automatically rebalancing. Huh. Are we yeah, we're on the CLD's end for both sides. Okay. Curious why that's happening. No, we're just going to trust that that is working as expected. We're burning slightly more fuel on the right side than on the left. I didn't accidentally hit anything up here. Yeah, the cross. Okay. Yeah, I'll just assume that's fine. Alright, now both tanks are transferring to the middle. Interesting. Let's look at our approach phase here. Our green dot speed is 200 knots. So when we get down to 3100, we'll go ahead and slow. Start getting our flaps out. feels like we're getting some turbulence at this level. Well, let's run the seatbelt side more early. I wonder if this MKR is in there as well. There's no frequency for it. Oh, DMA MKR required. Let's take a look. We still have a few minutes before we get to... Well, we have a minute before we get to 10,000 feet, so let's do this quick. I put in an MKR here. Not in database. Okay. Maybe it's a fix. No. Alright, where's the plan? Not exactly sure what that's meant to indicate. Approaching 10,000 feet, we'll get our landing lights on. Set our constraints. We have a good sense of what they are already. Let's get some speed brakes. Just to help get down to 250 knots. Our QNH again, 992. That is set. Let's take a look when that descent on final is supposed to happen. So across ML09 is where we start our descent. It's 7.2 nautical miles to ML09, so we should actually add that as our new program fix there.
2,500. 2,500.
So we're definitely flying over some terrain now, eh? Alright, we're approaching 3,100, and once we get there, we'll activate the approach phase. Okay. Brakes retracted. Now let's activate the approach phase. Green dot speed's 205. And we want to watch out for what? 7.2 nautical miles. Green dot speed. Let's make sure that's descent from 3,100. Is that right? Yes, descent from 3,100. We want to descend at 3.5 roughly. A fully configured speed. SP is 144. We got send of our descent rate. We'll be okay, at about 850 feet per minute. Is that the airport already? That's like the only thing you can see. That's pretty remarkable if we can see it from here. So we got our landing system on. Second autopilot. Oh, interesting. We can't do both at once. Speed checked. Flaps 1. Radar altimeter alive. Speed checked. Flaps 2. Landing gear down. Auto brake confirmed. Ground spoilers are armed. Gear is down. We'll turn on our lights. Speed check flaps 3. And flaps full. Established on the localizer approach phase. There we go. Now I can select both autopilots. That makes sense.
$2,500.
Oh, it must be over the fjord now. 8.9 miles, is that right? Okay. We're on the localizer. Get my vertical speed ready. We'll do 3.4 and adjust, so we'll probably go off autopilot at some point. .3 miles, and let's do this. FPA negative 3.4. Kangerlussuaq traffic, Air Canada 9084 on 8 mile final for runway 9. We're tracking at the right descent rate. We're about to pass the SF marker here, as you can see. Square and center line. I can't really tell the happy lights from here. Looks like we're high though, so I'm going to increase the descent rate. Beautiful scenery to our left, the trees and the snow. Got a nice light headwind. Five miles to go. $1,000. Just want to get on those pappies. There we go. Let's bring it back to 3.5. And at about 500, I'll take it off autopilot. Because it's, it's dark. Not really in the mood for hand flying at the moment. This is a very nice stable approach.
$100 above. 500.
500. Bit low, so I'll slow the descent a little bit.
Minimum.
We're right on that center line. Continue.
300. 200. 100. 50, 40, 30, 20, retard. 5.
Decel. Braking doing its job. And welcome to, I can't even remember the name. Kangerlussuaq or something like that. You know, I much prefer ILS landings in this plane, but that was not bad as far as RNAV landings go. Oh, there's the, okay, I was looking for the line is covered in snow. Oh, it's quite pretty. Kangerlussuaq traffic, Air Canada 9084 is clear of runway 9. Alright, so we'll just hold here. We'll go through our after landing checklist. So, ground spoilers disarmed, landing lights retract. I will keep the turning lights on, strobe lights to auto. Weather radar we can turn off. Engine mode selected normal, flaps retract. Transponder and TCAS to auto and standby. APU, let's get that rolling now. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we never turned the anti-ice on. But I think we're okay. And landing mode deselect. Rank temps look fine. And yeah, I think we'll go ahead and find our stand. We'll just have to keep an eye out for those MSFS folks to kind of wave us in. Hope they're not over there, because we're going to go to the right. If anyone has any tips for figuring out like where the ground services are, if you're not using the built-in ATC, that'd be really helpful. There's a bunch of hangars, there's the tower. Follow this. Like, is that a ground services truck? I don't know. Oop. Forgot that happens when you hold the mouse. It just keeps turning. gets senses some of that terrain out the window there. No, yeah, that's not going to help. I'm debating whether I just find a place to shut down or if I go the other side. I'm just curious. I think I might just taxi around. Oh, and I'm in this bug where I'm just stuck. Great. Oh my god. There we go. I'm free. I managed to get a bunch of eCam errors trying to wrestle my way out of this. So that goes back to the runway. We do not want that. Yeah, that must be like the main terminal over there. Oh, you can see the hills. Oh, this is going to be so nice to see in the daytime. If we'll see it on the daytime. Depends when I'll be able to take our flight to Reykjavik, which is next up. Alright, this looks like the terminal, right? Like, there's something in the dark over there. No, it's just a fuel truck. Okay. So you know what? We're just going to call this a parking spot. So, parking... So go ahead and turn the taxi lights off so not to blind anyone. Get this on for shutdown and go ahead and shut those engines down. Apparently I turn the yellow electric pump off. Engine 1, 2 off, slides check disarm, seatbelts off, beacon. When N1 is below 10, and it is, so we'll turn the beacon off. Elapsed time. Oh, I always mess this up. I always accidentally reset it. I just want to go to stop. Ah! Oh, man. Anyway, one day I'll get that right. Transponder to standby. Center tank pumps off. IRS performance check, vehicle quality check, stats check. Brake fan. No problems there. Okay, no external power, Stanley AP for now. And now we'll actually want to do securing the aircraft. So go ahead and shut off the rest of the fuel pumps. Turn the aiders off. Crew supply off. AP bleed is already off. Emergency exit light off. Parking brakes on. No smoking's off. And strobe to off. Nav and logo lights off. And we'll go ahead and do like a real good cleanup, because we are friendly pods. We'll go ahead and turn those off. Turn the flight directors off. Bring those screens down. And take this down. Of course up here as well. And anything else on the pedestal that looks like it needs some love. Oh, can I turn this? Does it work? Oh, I can turn that off. Look at that. Alright, that all looks good. Turn constraints off. And now let's go ahead and shut off the APU. And we'll turn the lights off and turn off the batteries. And that's it. We are shut down. And here we are in Kangerlussuaq, or however you name it. We'll be here until we can do leg 5, which will take us to Reykjavik, which I think will be a much more exciting trip. Flying over some ocean, flying over the rest of Greenland. Hopefully we'll get to do it in the daytime so we can actually see what we're looking at here. And hopefully get some ATC going into a much busier international airport. So thank you all for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed this quick hop from Canada to Greenland. And we will see you next time as we take this A320 around the world.